Okay everyone, welcome to How to Get Started Drawing with Conte. My name is Brian Hampton and I'm going to be showing you a new drawing medium called Conte and also some related materials, erasers, a couple of different kinds of erasers that will help you use Conte more effectively. And so Conte is just going to be another medium that we can use in a variety of different drawing media. And so we've already looked at using graphite, we've looked at using charcoal, and so this is the next step on our journey to becoming excellent draftspeople. So just as a little refresher, I'm going to go back and kind of describe what drawing is. So Wikipedia tells us that drawing is a form of visual art that makes use of any number of drawing instruments to mark a two-dimensional medium. Instruments include graphite pencils, which we're most familiar with, pen and ink, inked brushes, wax colored pencils, crayons, charcoal, chalk, pastels, various kinds of erasers, markers, styluses, and various kinds of metals such as silver point. Wikipedia also tells us that anyone who utilizes drawing as their primary art form or mode of creative expression may be called a draftsman. And so the primary idea with drawing is that a small amount of a dry medium, typically a dry medium, is used in an extremely controlled way to produce marks on a surface. And the marks are what make the drawings interesting and compelling or not so interesting and compelling. So this means that a great first step to becoming a good draftsperson is not so much to try drawing really complicated still lifes or detailed photorealistic portraits, but rather to start out learning to make simple but powerful lines. And these lines, these marks, will be more communicative and more emotive. So, in order to get started with this lesson, we're going to need some things. And so now we're going to talk about the various tools that we're going to use. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to need, very important obviously, is something to work on. So our two-dimensional surface is going to be what's called a newsprint pad. So this is made of newsprint paper, just like the stuff that's used to print newspapers, hence the name newsprint. So these come in various sizes from 8 by 10 all the way up to 24 by 36. This particular newsprint pad is 18 inches by 24 inches. And these can be purchased at any kind of art supply store. I got this one recently for around $10. So they're not extremely expensive. This one has 50 sheets. The paper is really lightweight and it doesn't have a whole lot of tooth. So it's not something that's extremely valuable. The paper isn't acid-free, if that was something that was important for you. This is a paper that is completely designed for practice. And it's nice because it gives you the freedom to practice, and you're not working on some sort of expensive paper or some sort of nice paper that you're really worried about, and so that's going to make you be more cautious in your mark making. This is all about just working with marks. So this is something that you're going to do, and then ultimately you're going to forget it, but your muscle memory will be there, and your drawing skills will be enhanced tremendously. So again, this is a newsprint pad. It's 18 inches by 24 inches, and you can see it has this kind of grayish color, just as I said, with newspapers. Okay, so the next thing that's very important to us will be our actual Conte crayons. When you buy Conte crayons, they come in full sticks, like this. And we're going to be dealing with, today we're going to be dealing with just two colors. Although these come in a few different colors, you don't have as many different colors with Conte crayons as you do with the crayons that you are familiar with just regular wax crayons, because Conte crayons are made from different materials. Conte crayons typically come in black, white, sanguine, which is a kind of reddish brown color like this, and brown Conte crayons. So you have a limited variety, about 4 different colors to choose from. And as I said, they come in sticks like this when you first get them. Conte crayons, something like Conte crayons, are what Leonardo da Vinci used in some of his wonderful drawings that I'm sure you've all seen. But the Conte crayon as we know it was something that was invented by a Frenchman named Conti in the mid-1700s. And so the Conte crayon is made from a mixture of clay and charcoal and wax, and it's all compressed together to give us these really nice uniform sticks. And it's a very dry medium, and it's a very controlled medium. And so this is a wonderful tool in your drawing toolkit. So we have our newsprint, we have our Conte, and last but certainly not least, we have our erasers. And we're going to be looking at two kinds of erasers. First, we're going to look at our white eraser. And white erasers are great because they give you really clean lines. They have nice sharp edges, and so you can erase in very specific ways, really clean, straight, clear lines. So these are great. Another nice thing about these is that after you use them for a while, they become worn down, and so the edges, you actually lose those edges and you get something that's more rounded. So then that gives you more options with the eraser. The rounded edges, you just have to learn to sort of work with those rounded edges to achieve whatever kind of results you're looking for. But those rounded edges can be really nice for certain kinds of drawing techniques and effects on your drawings. But if you need those clean edges back again, all you need to do is take a sharp razor blade, and you can cut off the part of the eraser that's been rounded off by use, and then you'll have those nice clean edges again. So it's almost like you have a brand new eraser. So your white eraser, again, very important. The next eraser is something that some of you might be familiar with. Perhaps a lot of you aren't familiar with this, and it's called a kneaded eraser. And so a kneaded eraser, as the name suggests, becomes useful after you knead it. And so kneading, that just means that you are stretching it out and you're compressing it just like you're kneading dough. So you would knead this eraser. As you knead the eraser, it heats up the molecules. So the eraser warms up, and as it warms up from the kneading, it becomes more malleable, it becomes soft, and so that means that you can use it for a wide variety of things. And the nice thing about a kneaded eraser is that you can use it for daubing your drawing medium. So if you have a section that has too much medium, it's too heavy, you can actually just press it on and roll this off, and it will remove layers of the drawing medium. You can also create little edges so that you do lines, but you have to keep in mind that it's very soft. So you're not going to get the really clean, crisp lines like you would with your white eraser. You're going to get something much more soft. So kneaded erasers are fantastic. You can use them for all sorts of things, but primarily using them for daubing and for just really lightly lifting areas of whatever your medium is off of your drawing surface. Okay, so let's just, I'm going to quickly recap what we have here. So we have our newsprint, we have our kneaded eraser, we have our white eraser, we have our white Conte crayon, and we have our sanguine or red Conte crayon. So these are the materials that we're going to be using today. And now we'll get started with our first exercise. Okay, so what you're looking at is what your final product is going to look like after today's exercise. So this might look a little strange, but what this is called is Space Invaders. And this is a game, a technique for developing hand-eye coordination with your drawing. And this is something that I was introduced to when I was an undergraduate studying under an amazing, stellar draftsman named Professor Kel Black. And so, again, this is what you'll see. You'll notice here that all of these little pentagons are created using these 5 points. So here's how the game works, and this is what we're focusing on. So you can see here how we have 3 different kinds of lines. We have a quick fluid line, we have a really heavy kind of awkward line, and then we have an extremely wispy line here that zips through. And so these are the kinds of things that we have to keep in mind when we're drawing. And that's what this game of Space Invaders will help you develop, is a sensitivity to how you produce the line that you need for any given drawing. So under some circumstances, you might need a really heavy, slow line, something that communicates kind of weight, maybe awkwardness. If you were drawing the wind, if you were drawing something that represented the wind, you definitely would want something that was more wispy and light and not something that was so heavy. Maybe. I mean, there's probably a situation in which you would want to illustrate wind using some kind of line like that. But the most important thing is just to have the sensitivity and enough different line qualities in your toolkit to accomplish whatever goal it is that you're trying to accomplish with your drawing. So, to get started, we're going to flip to a page in our newsprint pad, a blank page like this. And so when you first take your Conte crayon out of the packet, it's going to be one large Conte crayon. It'll be something like this. The first thing that you want to do is to break that Conte crayon in half. Some people might object to this. Some people don't like to break their Conte crayons in half, but I found it's a good way to sort of take charge of the Conte in the first place. Because when you break the Conte, you get a lot of different textural qualities on each side of the Conte crayon and on each piece of the Conte crayon. It's not going to be uniform and symmetrical. So if I take this piece of Conte and I test out the first edge gives me what I think is a really nice line quality. But let me zip through these others and kind of see what the other sides look like. So you can see here that one side creates this kind of doubling effect. So it's almost as if there were two pieces of Conte drawing alongside each other, because the edge is not uniform, it's not symmetrical and flat, it has ridges in it so that it produces multiple lines. This line is really clean, this line is relatively clean, kind of faint, it doesn't have the weight of this line, and this line is much cleaner and it's a much finer line. So you just basically have to find the edge that works for you, and once you find that edge, then you know that's the edge that you'll be working with. So I found my edge. Something important to also keep in mind is that you don't hold Conte like a pencil. You're not holding it like this. You're going to gently hold Conte using 3 or 4 fingers like this. I like to use 3 fingers this way. And when you make your marks, you're not going to rest your hand on the page as if you're writing. You're going to use your entire arm, your entire wrist. And that's something else to keep in mind when you're using Conte. Many people prefer to use Conte when they're standing as opposed to sitting down. Because when you're standing, it's much more likely that you will make dynamic marks. So we're standing, we found our edge, and we are properly holding our Conte. The next step is to do 5 dots, just like this. That's simple. So you will do multiple groupings of 5 dots. The next part of the process is to connect these dots by making a line with your Conte. And you want that line to be as fast and as fluid as you can possibly make it. You want it to begin perfectly in the center of the first dot and end perfectly in the center of the next dot. You don't want it to zip off to the left or to the right of the dot. You don't want it to extend beyond the second dot. You want it to begin and end between these 2 dots as perfectly as you can possibly make the line. So it's going to look a little something like this. And it doesn't matter so much. You don't have to go in a clockwise fashion. If you want to begin here and end here, and then begin on this side and make your mark, that's perfectly fine. But the important thing is beginning in the center of one dot and ending in the center of the other dot. without overshooting. And you can see here and here, I've overshot my mark. And here, I didn't quite make it to my mark. Also here, I didn't quite make it to my mark. So these are all important things. This is a kind of sensitivity you're going to develop. After you do this for a while, you will develop the ability to perfectly connect these dots with fluid, dynamic lines that are really engaging to look at. And you will develop amazing accuracy, but it takes practice. So what I want you to do for our exercise is take a fresh sheet of your newsprint, and we're going to fill the newsprint with our groupings of 5 dots. And the number of these that you create, the number of these groupings, that's entirely up to you. You don't want them to be too cluttered, because then that will just be distracting. And so then you'll just begin connecting the dots. You don't have to think too much about it. Just start your work. Keep your eye focused on the dots. Stay sensitive to the line. Stay sensitive to the way the Conte is reacting to your paper. Okay, so I've pretty much gotten this one filled. After you fill the first page, you'll flip over to your next page, and you'll do the same thing again. And what you're going to notice is that as you do this, very quickly, your accuracy is going to develop. It's going to get better and better. So since I've flipped around here and I've made these dots, I want to find my edge again and be sure that I have the edge I want. So I find the edge here pretty quickly. I think that's a nice line, good edge. I like the quality of it. So I can go ahead and begin again connecting these dots. So there you have it, Space Invaders. Alright, so I hope that this little demonstration has been helpful for you. We again looked at Conte and the different erasers that you can use working with newsprint. I would suggest that the Space Invaders game, it might be something that you would fill, if you're working with an 18 by 24 sheet of newsprint, you might want to do about 10 pages, fill 10 pages as a warm-up exercise. And I would suggest doing this warm-up exercise pretty much every time you're going to draw for, let's say, the next month. And see at the end of that month if it has helped you develop your hand-eye coordination and that muscle memory for making really fluid lines. So thanks very much for watching. I appreciate your time and attention. I hope this has helped you out some. My name is Brian Hampton, and you've been watching How to Get Started Drawing with Conte. Thanks very much.